Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, and in this video we will be knowing about who is Simone de Beauvoir. So Simone de Beauvoir was a French feminist and she was born in a bourgeois Parisian family in 1908 and she died in 1986. She passed the highly competitive aggregation in philosophy at the Sorbonne in 1929 and she is known for her feminism and feminist ideas which are merged with existentialism. Coming to her important works, so she has written lots of works. In ethics and philosophy, she has done her work Pyrrhus and Cineas in 1944, which is her early text talking about human action and existential responsibility. The next one is The Ethics of Ambiguity, which is an analysis of existential ethics and the paradox of absolute freedom. Then we have the celebrated fiction of her, that is She Came to Stay in 1943 and The Mandarins in 1954. Then we have autobiography of her, that is Memoir of a Dutiful Daughter, that came in 1958, that fascinates the record of her early family structures and cognitive rebellion. And then we have 1960 work The Prime of Life, which recounts the intellectual partnership with Jean-Paul Sartre. She is very famously known for her relationship with Jean-Paul Sartre, and that was a platonic love relationship with her. And in that particular relationship, they never ever get married, and they discarded the institution of marriage that celebrates and that validates human relationship. But in this today's class, we are going to talk about her feminist masterpiece, which is The Second Sex, which was written in 1949. It's a groundbreaking essay which was published in France in 1949, as I said. It interrogates how the social position of womanhood is structurally constructed and maintained. And the fundamental question where she starts the essay, that is, what is a woman? And she tries to find out the answer, but she does not, because she notes that the male critic never had written something about a woman. What is womanhood? And then the text unmarks how patriarchal culture has systematically oppressed female by designing them as the permanent inferior or counterpart of male. So without the existence of male or a man, a woman cannot be decided. And that's why there comes the binaries of men versus women or male versus female. She says that males have already been defined as the absolute subject, means males have been positioned as a foundational standard of humanity. Everything is related to men only, and something which is not men, something which is not related to men, or that is a woman. So men have already been characterized by the action, agency, creation, and project oriented freedom, whereas female have already been associated with stagnation, domestic reputation, historical passivity, and the like. What is not us here, us is defined as male, and then the other becomes the female. So females are the second sex, the ultimate other, defined purely in absolute opposition and negative constant of what is there in male structure. So women possess no independent definition, and she cannot exist to be a conceptualized without referencing of men. So whether she is going to be opposite of men or she is going in the favor of men, basically men would be the referential point for defining what is woman. And whatever she is saying is not just she is making her own theory. She supports her argument by defining certain important intellectuals from ancient history to theology and then so on. And what are these? For example, she quotes Aristotle and she says that Aristotle has asserted female lack qualities, female lack virtue. She was defined as an accidental being from the natural human template. Thomas Aquinas, who is a very important theologist, he proclaimed woman is an accidental being. He famously described her as imperfect man, which is designed purely for reproductive support. And that's why from historical record, the history itself is primarily to be blamed. The entire archive of human thought has been written and engineered by men, and that's why there is no position of women existence without the reference of men. And then she comes up about who is responsible for this subjugation of women, who are the people that should be blamed. And then she says that it's not only about men who are responsible for this condition of women. Basically, women themselves are also responsible for them, because it's about passivity. Once you yourself has accepted this passivity, no one in this world would be able to make you sovereign, will be able to make you free. So she says that it's women who consented to be in this patriarchal structure. She says that women have traded off freedom over security, and she is the one of the first feminist critics who critically analyzed women, she points out that women often traded their freedom for material security and physical protection. Women chose comfort over struggle, comfort over conquering, because once you have to conquer the world, you have to come out from your comfort zone, from the security that you believe that some other person will provide to you. So women chose domestic comfort, and conforming to societal expectation is significantly easier than taking the brave agonizing path to conquer the sovereign freedom. And because of that, women themselves are also responsible for this passivity, for this tolerance that they have acquired, and not only acquired but also passing to the next generations of women. It takes immense courage to be the first, and that's why women accepted this to be the second sex. Because of this existential weight, women historically cooperated in their own subjugation. And that's why she says that woman is not born, but rather some becomes a woman. I'm quoting Simone de Beauvoir here. One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. And here she strictly differentiates the biological anatomy from the culturally fabricated expectations of femininity, that is gender. And she's accepting that physiologically men and women are different. It's not about biological anatomy, it's about the expectations, the burdens which are culturally fabricated to women based on their anatomy. She says a girl child is systematically conditioned from birth to assure posture of passivity, obedience, and structural dependence. Women have to play the role of a woman. Femininity is not natural. In fact, it is prolonged manufactured behavioral mode forced on biological females by patriarchal system. Woman should not only be defined with her anatomy of reproduction. That is what she is saying. She is saying that one is not born but rather becomes a woman by acquiring those feminine stereotypical roles which are provided to women, for example, to be confined within the domestic sphere, to choose the role that suits femininity. So these kinds of things basically help this society to condition women to be a woman. And then comes the next topic of her, that is the bourgeoisie trap and emptiness syndrome. She says that women in this time are prescribed with certain functions and they have to go for it. First, the function to be a wife, a mother, and the entertainer. She says that even in bourgeoisie classes, lots of sophisticated women are there, but still bound to domestic administration and structured companion status, women are losing her legal and existential independence in marriages. Marriages is also another kind of dependence of women over men, and that's why she herself rejected the institution of marriage. Her identity is reduced entirely to biological reproduction, that is, she says, when a woman considered to be the ultimate rule of being a mother. So she says that after being mother, we don't know what to go for, and then comes emptiness syndrome. She also says that women is also trained as an entertainer, trained to maintain aesthetics, social status, and ornamentally for the bourgeoisie's family structure. Because you might have seen in Jane Austen's work, in many other Victorian novels, women are considered to be one of the entertainers. For example, women should know how to play piano, women should know how to paint, and some other aesthetic things they should know. Why? Because they have to maintain the status of being entertainer. They have to keep makeup, they have to show themselves as a presenter over the platter. And then the crisis of menopause comes in women's life. She says when children grow up and biologically functions shift, women face a devastating loss of identity. This triggers the emptiness syndrome, existential guilt over unlived lives. This directly mirrors the domestic alienation depicted in Virginia Woolf, Mrs. Dalloway. When Mrs. Dalloway becomes Mrs. Dalloway, she lost her own identity of being Clarissa. Here is the next and last part of our segment, that is transcending the immanent sphere, the path of liberation. She says that the true emancipation requires dismantling the artificial cultural myth surrounding biological destiny and domestic containment for the woman. Women must step out of passive immanence, the object position, and reclaim their status as absolute, autonomous subject of their own fates. Women should come out from her own domestic sphere, from the cocoon in which they are being living, in which they have been living from very long period of time. They should take the risk. They should come out. They have to conquer the world and don't remain the other, the second sex. Thank you so much.